Hey now, welcome to Fitz's Electric Bar. I've got an old friend as my guest today, someone who have shared some great musical experiences, either live or recorded, and someone whose musical taste I respect immensely and have gotten many suggestions of things that have become favorites of mine. So welcome, Don.
Thanks, Brian. I'm glad to hear that. It's very thoughtful coming from you. You're more of a musical aficionado than I am, that's for sure.
Well, we've had some fun, and we'll get into that a little bit. But maybe just give a little bit of background on you and where you're based and what you're up to in your life these days.
So I'm living just outside New York in Westchester County, which is 35 miles north of the city. Sadly, it is Trump country. It's a bit of a pocket that I struggle with, but do what I can. I teach an international school. It's a boarding school, and the majority of students are from outside the states. I've been here for a few years, and previous to that, I taught in New York City at international schools, living in the city itself. Aside from teaching, I spent a lot of time writing. I'm about to go into that mode. Teaching's almost over for the year, and I get to go into writing mode, and I'm working on that and do some writing coming up.
Now, you have, if I'm not mistaken, a channel that's involved with movies. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, it's sporadic. I had one, man, like a few years ago, and then it went belly up. I mean, you really got to stick to these things. That's the key. And then I had another one, something at the no, the first was Cinema Around the Corner, and the one I got now, but it's sporadic because my buddy Mike is now he's doing all these New York Knicks interviews about the Celtics, the Knicks, and he's doing on the spot outside the arena. So our cinema channel is lost his interest. So hopefully we'll get back to it.
Good, good. Well, good luck with that. Um, Tell me, I guess you've sort of said a little bit, but what are some other interests of yours? What are some things you're really interested in?
Well, film is a passion. I teach film, and I love watching films all the time, so I really enjoy that. And some of my writing tends to be rather visually oriented, so cinematic. I got a few scripts, and I'm pitching one called The Sacred Horror about a gang of prostitutes that kidnap a basketball team to air their voices on what's wrong with America. And I'm pitching that one around these days. And writing and reading. I'm reading Bram Stoker's Dracula right now, and it's just fascinating. Um, and I love music. I listen to music all the time. A lot of Dead. My music is basically 50% Dead, is still about, and then 20-30% ambient music, which is just electronic looping sounds, and then like 20%, what people call normal music.
The ambient, is that mostly restricted to music as a soundscape for writing?
No, I mean, it's really good for writing. I love it for writing. It's definitely driving. I do long drives. I'm driving out towards you in a couple of weeks out west, and that's whatever that is, like 65 hours. And definitely listen to some stuff, rock or whatever, but listen to ambient, going through the prairies sounds amazing to me. I can work out with it too. If they could get a really good loop going and that it generates into something, then I find it fascinating. But yeah, I'd say writing is the number one, but I also just love it in the background too.
Right. And you'll be listening to a few Complete Dead shows, I'm sure, on that trip.
Oh yeah, well, Sirius will be on, and at noon they have a live show, and I always want to be there to hear the show is. And if Dave will grace us with a show in the early mid '80s, then I'll be listening. If he goes to the late '80s, early '90s, I'm like Dave, just because you were watching them then. But so, yeah, I'll listen. I love listening to the Dead, and I won't listen to the guys, the road managers hour either. That's crazy. But
Is that Steve Parrish?
Steve Parrish, big old Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's a good channel. My girlfriend though is just kind of new to it, so I don't listen to it too much because it can be a little bit much. We also
Okay.
listen to the classic rock channel and 70s. I grew up in the 70s, so I love that pop music. It's just memories for me.
Mm,
So those go on as well. And if there's a sporting event, I like to listen to that.
awesome. And your Toronto Maple Leafs are still ensconced in a very tough battle with Florida 2-2 as we record this.
Yes, it's tight. Those Florida Panthers are dirty. They're dirty players. I
They're
really don't
stick
like them.
holders as well. They just are always holding sticks. It's like they got to start calling some stick holding penalties.
God. And they're always like hitting, and our goalie is it has a major concussion. I don't know if he's going to play again this season because of this concussion. And
And
he's
Bennett
got
and
these good
Stolars are
penalties.
friends,
Yes.
apparently.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure behind the scenes, man. That guy. I don't want that guy as my friend. He's a bad man. And then also to Chuck, there was a hit last night. To Chuck was pointing at the Islanders, saying, "I'm coming after you." I'm like, what? You're like 10 years old. So yeah, they got to get through this stuff though. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Toronto is a much better hockey team, but boy, does Florida have the attitude, and it's they're like rabid dogs. So hopefully they just get through it.
And as they say, the Stanley Cup is both the best, playoff sport that there is. From a biased perspective, but the other part that really hits home to me is it's a game of attrition in the
It's
playoffs.
attrition. And especially when you're watching. I saw the overtime game on Friday, and the hockey level went down significantly in the overtime. It's all about not giving a goal up, and a lot of poor hockey, but it's just about not making a major mistake. And yeah, it's attrition. It's just, can you
At the
survive?
end of the year, they'll say, well, they speculated that so and so was injured, and then they confirmed that they were injured. But then the underlying point of the whole thing is that everybody's injured. Like some are injured
Totally.
really badly, and some just have a broken hand or something.
Just a broken hand. That's all they have.
That's it.
I love the memes that you get on I get on my Instagram. They like, a soccer player, someone like bumps him, just with their elbow or something, just slightly, and the guy falls down, he's moaning. And there was a great one of Ovechkin getting a puck right in the face of the bench. And he it looks like it might have broke his nose. He just wipes his face and he jumps on the ice. So that's the hockey attitude, that's for sure.
That's great. Okay, let's jump into the 10 questions.
Let's do it.
So, number one, what is a record you're really enjoying these days? Obviously, it could be streamed or CD or vinyl, but what's a record you're playing a lot? I call this a front of the pile record.
Well, so I have a CD player and it's a six player. And I really like it because every week or a little less, I will just take the six out and put a new six in. And I like very much what that does to my musical listening. And then I'll tend to repeat something. So the album I've just been obsessed with the last 2 weeks is Simple Minds, Sons and Fascination. I love that album. That's for me is the best Simple Minds stuff there is. And there's a couple of songs on it that just kind of blow me away.
I didn't figure you for a Sons and Fascination era Simple Minds guy or Simple Minds at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, the middle stuff, and when you listen to the music, like there's two songs specifically I'm talking about are This Earth You Walk Upon and Sons and Fascination. And they have this like a looping guitar sound, looping bass sound, looping everything. And it is actually very much like the ambient music I'm listening to, but with lyrics. And the weird thing is the lyrics and the chorus in Sons and Fascination, I finally looked it up and it's a bunch of gobbledygook. I can't even figure out what it is. And I've always loved this song. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to finally realize what the chorus is. And I don't even know what those words mean. So that kind of shows my musical listening as I'm not a lyric person. I love just the sound. And yeah, I think it's, and then earlier on, they had a kind of a punk rocky or like sort of straight ahead, maybe new wavy sound. Their albums before, Life in a Day and Gods and something. And then after that, they of course they did New Gold Dream and Up on the Catwalk, and those are good, but they get a little bit too poppy for me. I mean, I like them. I like a few songs in both those albums, but the sweet spot where they really I thought had an amazing sound was that.
Great. Tell me about a favorite concert experience you've had.
Well, there's a lot of them. I mean, the Grateful Dead, of course, is I saw a lot of Dead shows, so they were always really good. I mean, I guess, yeah, a Grateful Dead, Oklahoma City, '85. We saw it was in I think September the 2nd, and it was a full harvest moon, and it was an incredibly big moon, and I was partaking in certain things that made the moon even bigger and brighter, and it was in Oklahoma. I'd never been to Oklahoma before, and full on experience with cowboy hats and cowboy boots, and very dusty. And the music was exact. It's amazing how much they brought that feeling out, and they played a lot of country western, like Me and My Uncle, and songs that are just like we're in the heart of America kind of stuff. So it was a very powerful moment. And when in the middle of the show, I saw a giant wheel above, and we were at the center of the wheel, and the spokes were all going out, and I felt like I was at the center of some sort of space time continuum. So it's good concert.
And so that was good.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me what you would consider to be one of the saddest songs ever.
Oh, saddest songs ever. So a song that makes me really emotional. Huh. I don't really. I mean, I guess for me, it would have to be a song like sadly, what is that song? It's a song I've seen in a lot of memes, and it's a song in the that vampire series of movies, Twilight, where they get married. And I don't know what the song is. It's really, but people put in a lot of memes about how much you care for something. So I'm giving a bad answer here, but I find it very emotional, and it's obviously a very poppy song, and it's all about I've loved you forever, and I've loved you for 1,000 years. I think that's what it's called. Loved you for 1,000 years. I don't know who it's by,
It's a long
and
time.
it's a really poppy schmaltzy song. But I'm like, wow, that's I've waited for 1,000 years, and here you are. So. Uh, yeah.
Way to open up your heart and be vulnerable for us. What about one of the most joyful songs ever?
Oh man. Well, I'm sorry to go back to it, but the Dead, like songs like Bertha opened that show I was talking about, Oklahoma City. Those songs, or China Cut Sunflower, they have incredible peaks where, my favorite was Phil Lesh, the bassist, and the way he managed these incredibly explosive endings or moments and climaxes in songs. I just have pure elation listening to that stuff. So talk about sad. I mean, when Phil died in like 7 months ago now, and I have a big picture of him on my wall, and that makes me really sad thinking about him leaving because I just loved watching him. But the way so I would say Bertha or Sugar Magnolia. There's an assortment of incredibly climactic Grateful Dead songs that would fit into that category.
Fantastic. Let's imagine you get up early in the morning, maybe on the weekend. You've got a few hours ahead of you. What's a perfect first record of the day?
First record of the day. Well, I mean, as I said, I listen to all this ambient stuff, and it's a lot of it. I'm a member of Bandcamp. I'm on their mailing list for a lot of these ambient bands, and so a lot of this music is really especially low light or the twilight or the early hours of the morning with the beautiful light. There's a band called Warmth that I'm listening to a lot now, and they do a lot of these looping things, and then they do the great stuff where they'll release another version that's half speed or quarter speed, and it's the same damn thing, but it's just half speed. And so yeah, anything by Warmth, I would say these days is what I would listen to first thing in the morning.
Excellent. Tell me about one of the most underrated bands or artists ever.
That's a good question. I like that question. Um, well, it's funny. I mean, I definitely have to say Guided by Voices. They're like the Dead in a way that, I mean, the people that know Guided by Voices love Guided by Voices, and there's a lot of people. I know a lot of musicians have talked about Guided by Voices, how great they are. But I mean, I know Bob Pollard's a bit of a lunatic, and I guess he's cut down the drinking a bit. But I know he was very hard to get along with, and I'm sure touring he was very challenging. But I mean, their music is just unbelievable, and I can't believe that they've always basically stayed in the clubs. I saw them when they came to Lollapalooza like over 20 years ago, and they played the arena at Lollapalooza, which is like 16,000. There was like 3,000 people there, and I was just like, wow, I cannot believe that no one's at. And they just could have walked in, and they just didn't have that draw. So but the people that know them, I mean, Guided by Voices can tour and they'll always sell out, but it's always going to be a club of, 500 to 1,000. And so I guess they are underappreciated. But yeah, there's the people that love them do love them.
We are going to circle back to GBV a little bit later. So,
Ooh,
yes,
speaking of exposing yourself,
yeah, exactly. Van Morrison or Jackson Brown?
Van Morrison. I can expand on that?
You can.
Well, I mean, Jackson Brown, I don't know him that well. Of course, I know Running on Empty and some of the more, I guess popular songs. But for me, Van Morrison, I could put him on in a morning album. I could see, I absolutely love Astral Weeks. Obviously, is just phenomenal. But I also love the one with Woodstock on it. I forget what it's called. And that album is just, there's so many beautiful songs. I've seen him a number of times too, live, and a couple where he was drunk or tired and it was not good. But a couple, I was just like, wow, this guy is a troubadour. So yeah, I'm a big Van Morrison proponent, big fan.
Joni Mitchell or Aretha Franklin?
Joni Mitchell. There's a couple albums I love by her, and her voice is so poetic and beautiful. And I'm nothing against Aretha Franklin, but it's not. I don't really listen to a lot of Motown. I mean, when it's on the radio and they listen to that '70s channel or '60s, I like her music for sure. But uh, Joni, I listened to. I think it was called Hyra. Get the name of one of the
Hejira.
songs. Hejira. I like that a lot. And Hissing of Summer Lawns was another thing that comes to mind. And she has some beautiful songs, and her voice is so lovely. So yeah, she's Canadian too. Come on.
Hmm. Elbows up. Um, Three must-have desert island discs.
Um, well, I guess I mean, it's always been it's one of these like, I'm always asked with film, my favorite film, and I say Aguirre, Wrath of God. I used to say it all the time, but there's so many films that I love as much. But so I've always thought the same thing about Ziggy Stardust by Bowie. But I've listened to it so many times that I might just kick myself after a few months because like I should have picked something else. But I'd say that I'll stick with that. And well, PJ Harvey has really been in my brain for a while now. I saw her in the fall, and I just could not believe how phenomenally incredible she was. And so I basically been going through her whole discography. But I will stand by her one of her later albums, Let England Shake. I just it's so powerful. I would say Rid of Me, which is such a powerful album, but it's so angry. I like it a lot, but afterwards I get very angry, and so not that angry, but I don't know if I want to keep repeating the anger over and over again. So I'd say Let England Shake, which has got a lot of anger in it too. But and then I don't know, something more. I don't know. I'm going to say one of the Disintegration Loops 4 by William Basinski, which is the one he did this collection of 5 CDs, and it's just a series. He had a reel to reel, and it was some sound he had, and the tapes were disintegrating, so he'd just play it like 18-second loops, and he'd play it over and over and over again for 40 to 50 minutes, and then the sound would disintegrate. And so he has this one, I forget which one, I think it's 4.2, and it's this 52-minute song that it's amazing. You hear, and when you hear from what it started, what it started, like how it ended. And that's the kind of thing that you could listen to a lot and not even know that you're listening to the same song. So, Disintegration Loops 4, I'm going to say, by William Basinski.
So people don't make a mistake and get one, two, or three.
Yeah, no, the early that's too it's too poppy,
Too commercial.
too
Okay,
commercial.
let's jump into the 5+ questions directed for you. So, first
Ooh,
one is you have the opportunity to drop into a music scene from the past. So I'll give you a few examples you can draw from, or you can pick your own. And I want you to choose which scene you would most want to be a part of and enjoy. The Laurel Canyon scene, the Joni Mitchell, CSN, Neil Young, etc.
yeah,
UK punk scene, the first sort of flush of that, Sex Pistols, Clash, Damned, all that stuff. Third one would be New York City CBGB scene, Talking Heads, Television, Patti Smith, Ramones, etc. Fourth one would be the Manchester factory post-punk, Joy Division, all that kind of stuff. Um, then the Manchester scene of Inspiral Carpets and Stone Roses and Happy Mondays.
wow.
Hamburg 60 to 62 and the Beatles. Or fill in the blank. What scene would you most want to be dropped into?
Well, and musically, I think the Laurel Canyon one sounds fascinating, but I just think of Charlie Manson running around, so I would have fear the whole time. So musically, I love what you're talking about then, but I just can't separate that from that bastard wandering around. So I'm just too scared of that. I have to say, so I just got this I just saw the John and Yoko documentary. It's called One on One. It just came out in the theaters. I recommend it highly. It's all collected newsreel footage from the day. There's absolutely nothing else in there. There's no interviews. It's just collected footage when he lived for a year and a half in the village with Yoko, and they did a fundraiser for a group home of mentally incapacitated kids. Anyway, it was a fascinating thing. And so now I'm sort of obsessed with Lennon. I'd love to have been around when the Beatles started. I think that would have been such a fascinating period of time because it's such a transition from that rock that was happening in the 50s, early 60s, and they were just transforming what rock music meant. And I don't think there's been a bigger. I guess maybe now music's really changed a lot with R&B and hip hop and all these things have really taken over the mainstream. So I'm obviously there's been a big switch from the rock and roll bands and stuff. But I'd be fascinated to have been around and seen the Beatles in their early days, like we saw the Hip in the 83, 84 at Queens, to see the Beatles around the same time when they're just these guys playing in the cavern, I think it was.
Yeah.
That would just been I would have been fascinated by that. I would be really just to see them. They didn't know what they were doing, and then they eventually figured it out. But in the beginning, they were just mimicking, and then they started doing new things. So that to see that happen would have been amazing.
Yeah, and to have created or been a part of a scene that really never existed quite like that. I mean, I guess you'd have jazz maybe in the village or something like that, which would have been a bit of a scene. And before that, it would have been kind of like, pot smoking and beat poetry and stuff like that, which would be pretty
Yeah,
cool. But there was no rock and roll scene the way I think
yeah,
Hamburg started to really
yeah.
develop that.
And when you mention that, I have to say I would love to have been in the village in the whatever 60 whatever 3 to 66 with all the jazz guys, and then Dylan was there, and there was a lot of, I mean, just to go to these little bars, there was so many interesting things happening. But to see Miles Davis or John Coltrane at the Village Vanguard, oh, man, that's pretty good. I'd like to do that one too.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so back to Guided by Voices. Then I think you were the one who introduced me to Guided by Voices. I'm pretty sure the first show I saw of Guided by Voices, I believe it was at the Red Room here in Vancouver, was with you. I think I might have seen another one with you as well.
It wasn't at what was that place that got torn down?
Oh,
The
um,
aquarium?
uh,
No,
Starfish Room.
Starfish. It wasn't. It might have been a Starfish.
Might have been, but I recall this one which became like a dance club. So I only went to a couple shows there before it
Okay.
transitioned to a dance club. And I was there with you, and I'm 99%. And there was a band called, was it Chet Faker or something like that? There was from Vancouver Island, I think.
Okay. I don't
Yeah,
remember, but it sounds legit.
but I remember that show very well, and I think it was the first time I saw Guided by Voices. But here's the question for you. For those who have heard of the band Guided by Voices, and I think anybody who's interested in rock music would be hard to avoid the name, but is completely unfamiliar with their music and what they're all about, how would you describe Guided by Voices to someone who knows nothing of them?
Um, even if you don't like a song, it doesn't matter because it's over in 2.5 minutes. That's what I'm just. So every show is what 49 songs, and I mean, I've taken a lot of people that, hey, let's just go to the show, and they're like, they know nothing about it. A lot of fun. God, and Bob Pollard on the mic, he does the classic wheeling around with the microphone, and he just loves singing these crazy songs, and when he tour, he's got a new album every 5 months, and so every time I see him, I'll see him again whenever he comes back. He comes to New York quite a bit. The first 5 songs are new, and he's like, "Here's some new ones for you kids," and I don't know any of it. They always play "Tractor Rape Chain." I don't know. It's an amazing loud song. They always play like 5 or 6 songs. He always plays the girls, Glad Girls. He plays that a lot now. So there's only like 5 or 6 songs of his repertoire of like 1,000, and I really don't know a lot of them. But in the end, it doesn't matter because everyone's having a great time. I saw them. It was one of the first shows I saw after COVID, and that they opened things up and people were allowed to. It wasn't all these rules, and that was a crazy, messy, drunken scene. Everyone's like, "We're outside interacting with people," and fans of Bad Voices tend to drink a lot, and everyone was hammered. And somebody fell right down the stairs, and they just got up and walked off. I'm sure they will remember it in the morning, but anyway, yeah, I would mean I brought my ex-wife once, and she didn't like because it's a very messy drinking scene, and that some people don't like that, and she never liked that. So straight ahead, good old rock and roll, and you leave with a smile on their face. I believe.
Yeah, I think there's some good like Who and other sort of references that come up in their music that's just so fantastic.
Yeah, they covered Baba O'Reilly for an encore for a while, and they stopped, and they did it great. And then he's also covered. Oh, he's covered a couple of Elton John songs. I forget. I remember when he introduced an Elton John song. This guy's written some good songs, and then he plays this Elton John song. I'm like, oh yeah, he has written some good songs.
So, hey, looking back, what band would have typified a Don Gibson in high school experience? What kind of band were you listening to where you say would be kind of your typical high school band that you would have loved?
Well, I guess I had three bands or three types of music I listen to all the time, or musicians. One was Mike Oldfield. I was obsessed with Mike Oldfield. So obviously he did Tubular Bells, but then he had all these other albums, QE2 and Hergest Ridge, and I liked it all. And then he came out with an album actually in like 1980, 81. I forget what it was called. Anyway, so I listened to him all the time, and he actually played at Ryerson um, Theater, what's called Toronto College something now. And that was a great show for me. So that was my sort of offbeat side that a lot of people didn't quite understand. But I also loved The Who. I listened to The Who all the time, and Jimi Hendrix. I had a big poster of Jimi Hendrix on my door. He had like purple smoke around him, so purple haze. And I remember Mom coming up to my room one night at 7 o'clock, said, "Will you take the garbage out, or will Jimi Hendrix, your God, allow you to?" I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I'll take the garbage out. Sure.
Jimmy, what's your response?
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta wait. I have to get high to find out. So give me some time here. Yeah. So I listen to that stuff all the time, and I really was sad that I never. Well, I saw the Who in the '80s, so it was without Moon. Um, it was great, and then I saw them in a show at CNE Stadium. It was their farewell concert in '80 or '81, and I just saw on my Instagram feed they're doing. I don't know what it's called, but it's their final tour
The
ever,
song
and
is over.
the
Promise.
song is over 45 years after their final concert in Toronto.
Yeah.
They're doing their final tour. So, and
And
you know
will
what
you
it's like?
go?
What's that?
And will you go?
Yeah. My generation, they can't sing that song anymore. You can't sing that song. It's forbidden. But I know I'm a huge that early sound. Those albums are just awesome. So they were my first disappointment, my great disappointment. I saw them at CNE Stadium, and they were backed up by Hart and Nash the Slash, Jay Giles Band, and they played the same song. I saw the same tour show I saw them do like 2 3 months before at Maple Leaf Gardens. It was like almost just exact, and I was so confused. I'm like, oh my god, the Who have this huge catalog, and they're doing that, and they didn't do Magic Bus. Apparently that was a thing, and I came home so almost devastated. Maybe it's overusing the word devastated, but I was like, I thought live music was live music, and that's when I learned that most people that tour they have the same thing. I didn't realize that, and then 2 years later, I found the Dead, so it all worked out.
That's right. The antithesis to the same show night after night.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so same question for university. So I'm sure there's probably some
yeah,
carryover, but what were the acts, and we know one of them, but what were some of the acts that you typified your listening in university days?
yeah. I mean, yeah, I found the Dead in first year college, and I basically didn't. I didn't really listen to much else for like 6 straight years. So I know the music was going on. I really liked Prince and Uh, it's about all I can name. But I never and there back his music and Madonna and Talking Heads were being played at the pub, and hear that stuff. But any personal music, it was pretty close. I got pulled over at the border crossing from Canada to the States, and amazingly, I did have a bag of weed in the car, but the guy didn't find it. So it's a nice moment for me. But we had this box of 60 tapes, 30 on each side, cassettes, and he opened it thinking, maybe there's stuff in here. It was under the back seat. Come on, that's obviously where it was. And so they're all dead but bootlegs. So 60 slots, and I think 55 were dead bootlegs. Two or three were like studio albums by the Dead, and I think there was like a Pat Metheny and maybe a Joni Mitchell. And so that kind of sums up my listening to music. Was a lot of Dead, a little bit of studio Dead, but almost all bootleg Dead.
Right. That says a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a
Um,
lot.
Tell me about an artist that you feel has had one of the best evolutionary arcs or career arc in their career.
Huh. Evolutionary. So how they really progressed and turned into something else. I mean, maybe I'd go back. Well, you ever think about that question like that? Well, I was going to quickly say, maybe I'll change my mind as we go, but PJ Harvey has really, her last album is such a, and we were talking earlier about, what's his name? Who'd you see last night?
Nick Cave.
Nick Cave. And so he's had quite an evolutionary arc and lots of things going on. And I don't really like when he gets all weird and poetic and is aesthetic, but I love it when PJ does. So her early music is really angry and screaming and just awesome. And she's also really mad at Mr. Cave because they were together. And Rid of Me apparently is her way of dealing with those emotions. But her arc, and then she did This Is England in 2014. It's so political. It's such a fascinating thing. And I forget what the name of the latest album is, but it's just so ethereal and poetic. So and she did almost the entire, I think she did the entire album at the show, and I just was riveted. And that's her brand new music, and it's really evolved from her. And she says she doesn't really like doing her older stuff because it's so angry and angsty, and it doesn't feel like it's her anymore. So, but she did a couple of the songs, and it's still, like Big Fish Swimming in the Water. She still does that one, which is awesome.
Mm.
So I'd say, yeah, she's really evolved in something and just followed her path, and she's now a new version of herself.
Cool. Tell me a great rock biography and or music documentary that people should watch or read.
Huh. Ah, I love biographies. So I just saw it's out in the theaters right now, John and Yoko One-on-One, and I really liked it because it's all archival imagery. There's no interviews, there's nothing else, and it really painted a picture of 71 or 72 to 73. And it painted so afterwards I bought a biography of Lennon. I want to read that now. I bought Hunter S. Thompson's what's the Gonzo on the campaign trail. It's the Fear and Loathing on the campaign trail. It's not the Vegas one. And it's all about the following the candidates, McGovern and Nixon. And so it really made me like, I want to know more about this time period. So it really evoked that. Yeah, I read a lot of biographies in film now, so that's not going to help. But I read a great one on what's her name? Judy Garland. She had a fascinating life. She sang, so that fits. Poor girl was like addicted to painkillers like when she was like 13, and then
And I
she was
think,
owned by the studio. But
yeah, the studio was keeping her pumped up, I think, right?
they kept her pumped up, and then everyone's like, "Oh, what a train wreck she was!" Excuse me, she was forced to be an addict, and when she's in her key years, and oh, this is awful, this addict. I mean, what the studio created that crap. So it really, I mean, fascinating life, and she star when she was 15, 16, or maybe even younger, and then just basically had an amazing arc as a singer and as a performer. So and tragic, all that stuff with the drugs and like losing herself. But I don't know. I was really impacted by reading about her life.
On Friday, just a couple days ago, a few days ago, I saw Ryan Adams, not Brian, but Ryan Adams, and he played Somewhere Over the Rainbow on piano, and and sang it. It was beautiful. And I was thinking about Judy Garland, of course, the whole time he was singing it, right? And
Yeah,
I actually just suddenly realized that probably one of the saddest songs ever, in my estimation, would be that.
that's a good pull. I agree. It's a beautiful, beautiful song about dreams, and then when you put it in the context of how it's performed and who it is, it's just so it's very sad.
Hmm.
And such the voice is so gorgeous. It's such a beautiful, innocent voice, and oh yeah, you're right. Very
Vulnerable,
sad.
right? Like really vulnerable. Yeah.
Totally vulnerable. Yep, I totally agree. It's they're actually showing Wizard of Oz. I think there's some anniversary happening, but and we have a nice local theater, and I live in Pleasantville. They have a nice theater, and they're showing Wizard of Oz next weekend. So I'm gonna.
That's
I've seen the
such a
theater.
classic.
See it in the theater. I've seen the theater a couple of times, and it's just such a beautiful film. It's such a beautiful film.
It looks so gorgeous in black and white, and then when it goes to color, it's just one of the most remarkable things, right?
It is, and also, a lot of those backdrops, obviously there's no CGI. It was done, like 90 years ago now. There are all these matte painted, distant like vistas that are just really beautiful painting, and you can tell, especially when you watch it on a large screen, you can figure out it's not real, but it doesn't matter. That's not the point. It doesn't. If you just let yourself go with it, and at the time they blew everyone's mind how amazing it was. We judge it now, but I still think it works. The kids in my class that we chose a film to watch because we're winding down, they're watching Alien, the Ridley Scott film. I'm just going sideways a little bit, and it's fascinating because the sound of the special effects on that are so minimal and so like they don't over the top doing things. It actually still holds up, and that's 80, 25, 45 years ago. And it still holds up. And I'd say the same thing about a lot of these old films like Wizard of Oz. Obviously, it's not CGI, but honestly, a lot of CGI is terrible. So who
Mhm.
cares? But yeah, magic. And not just that song. A lot of the other songs are just beautiful too.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So
The
Judy.
it's interesting about the Wizard of Oz and the sets because it's, obviously with it being a set and looking at it now 90 years on, it is more of an impressionistic thing rather than trying to create reality. And it's not like our human minds are incapable of processing things like that in a way that's more impressionistic because basically theater is impressionistic, for the most part, right?
Totally. If you go see a good, I just saw Othello a month ago here, and you're supposed to be obviously it's not real, and they time jumps around, but it's what we do with our that's how we exercise our creative minds as we're watching and letting ourselves, the suspension of disbelief and the idea of you have to recreate it so it's exactly true is it's I think it's
Hmm.
a misguided
And it
adventure.
also is makes us lazy, like to be able to fill in the blanks and be able to be in the moment in something that's been created that's not 100% real. And and a bit sadly, I think the virtual reality future that we live in will make that less necessary for us to be able to fill in the blanks, to be able to create our own version of this reality that's been created as it is now.
I agree entirely. I mean, we have no idea how it's going to evolve, but the willingness that people have just to, I teach high school and they just love being in that virtual world. I do too. It's not like it's an age thing, but I mean, they grew up with it and they don't really know anything else. I just saw that new Nosferatu film, well, like a few months ago now by David Eggers, and I was pretty excited because I like Eggers and he creates a pretty fascinating, ambience. I love The Witch, and I like and The White Lighthouse. He's a good filmmaker. But Nosferatu, the original, was done in 23, so it was done 100 years ago, and I think it's a better film. I mean, I don't want to come across as a superior, film guy, but it's beautiful how it's all black and white and it was silent. You had to have live music, but the scenes with shadows and the imagination when you're in that world, I think it's more effective. So Eggers has a tendency to be rather gruesome and show graphic stuff. And I'm not a big fan of it. I think it needs to be done if you want to make it, if there's a reason for it. But I don't like gratuitous violence. Like lots of people like Tarantino, and one of the reasons I don't like I just find it gross. And I thought, and I like Eggers, but I just thought I was like, what are you doing? You're redoing. It's like all these people are redoing the Wizard of Oz films, all these versions. And I'm like, I don't know why you're bothering because the film's incredible. But
Hmm.
I guess they want to make money. It's probably the reason.
Well, this is, I think, probably a good time for the last question. It's a simple one, and it's just simply, what's the meaning of life?
Oh, that's simple.
Yeah.
Hockey, Toronto Maple Leafs, and music. Yeah, and a good bottle of single malt is solid as well.
This is kind of like in the movie The Jerk, where he says one thing and a
Oh
bottle of
yeah,
single
and
malt.
this, and this. I love that scene. I want to see that film again. The problem with that film is there's a lot of inappropriate things in it that just don't. I mean, he's raised as a poor black child. It's one of the opening jokes, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, "What? You can't do that."
Oh,
But
no.
yeah, just
All I need is this chair.
just this, and this ping pong paddle. Yeah, that's me. Booze, um,
Hockey
hockey, and music,
and music.
and some loving.
Well, Don, thank you for participating. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. I love the project. I'm looking forward to see where it goes.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, see you, man.
Bye.